Fantasy LCS G2's Perks is your pick to envy today. What a performance. He picked up 13 kills and had a KDA of 20 as mid lane Corki against the Unicorns of Love, earning over 40 fantasy points. Not any surprises there.
He's on my bench.
Oh.
So,
on purpose?
Weren't you supposed to be good at fantasy?
Well,
That's
I'm
what
still winning. I mean, my team is that good, I can put Perks on my bench, and I'm still beating Stress at the moment. It's pretty easy.
Congratulations, the fish.
Thank you.
And although they didn't pack quite big as a fantasy punch, we want to look at 5 players that came up big this week. As always, it's a hard decision-making process here. But first up, we talked about him. We sang his praises. Definitely deserved. Sven is in there once again.
I mean, it also helps for him when his team is building like Lulu comps around him and kind of telling him to be the big carry. But like, he's stepping up every single time Origin needs him to carry, and they build comps to make him a carry. He always does well.
He also has such a support carry around.
Obviously, he has the best support in the world.
Yeah.
Playing Alistar.
Another player we want to highlight from Splyce in the mid lane. Senkux consistently performing well now, and Splyce is definitely fighting their way back into the standings, and now in the middle of the pack, working their way up.
Yeah, everybody's going to be talking about that quadra kill, but for me, it's what led to that moment. The way he played the matchup, I think it was Ari into LeBlanc. This is how it all ended up, but yeah, he completely dominated mid lane in synergy with Trashy on that first gank, and then started snowballing.
Yep. Next one we want to highlight is Hybrid from G2. Mithy, how good is this guy?
I think he is surprisingly good. I played against him, actually, for the qualifier for LCS, like the Challenger Series finals, and we won 3-0, but he already impressed me then. His champion pool was lower now, and I think now he's just become a much better player, and I think he's very, very talented.
He's one of these guys we absolutely love to see because he comes all the way down from the Challenger Series, then he qualifies into the LCS, and obviously G2 made some roster changes, but he stayed on the lineup with Perks as like really the 2 shining lights at the moment, combined them with Emperor and Trig also playing well. So he's a big part of why G2 at the moment is one of the best teams.
He reminds me of Kasing. And ironically, Kasing, if I remember correctly, actually left or got kicked from G2 and then ended up back into the LCS. This time, G2 managed to keep the good support in their team, and yeah, I'm impressed with him so far.
You know, actually, I just while we were talking about it, I just remember about this. After we played the game against CW back then, I was talking with Hybrid after the game, and he told me next year I'm gonna be LCS for sure. And there he is.
Not just LCS, at the top of the tables as well. Our next OP player is from the Unicorns of Love, Vizichachi. You wanted to highlight this player specifically.
Yeah, I think Vizichachi coming into the season, again, we had all this talk about, you know, who's going to be the big carry. I think Chachi was the guy everyone could kind of rely on because he was a stable top laner last year. He wasn't good enough to be like the best, but he was a stable player, very consistent in his performance. And he's keeping it up, honestly. He's playing more carry champions. He has more of a role on this Unicorns of Love lineup, and I think Chachi right now is one of the better top laners.
Yeah, and then the last member of the OP5 that I just want to highlight, just to not put all the burden on Shockseer's Ottawamne, because he showed different facets of play. He got the Gangplank one day, but he played a team-oriented Gangplank where he was continuously using the ultis to help his team, and then today, he was just playing a hard carry on the Poppy. It was a little rough for H2K in terms of the macro, but he started a lot of fights, and especially the last team fight, he just zoned 2 people at the same time, kept Kalista busy. He just played a really great...
killed her.
Yeah, that's chilling, yeah.
The thing I respect the most was on his previous game when he was playing Gangplank, where his team was winning top lane. I mean, bot lane, yeah, because he was a lane stop. And he was getting camped bottom lane by Shook and Cabochard, and he managed to not even die, you know, like I think he died just once, and he played very well around all the pressure that the enemy team was putting around him, and then he just managed to just lift his weight even though he was behind and just play a great game. I was truly impressed.
Yeah, especially because he was not even using his ultimates to stop the dives bot. He was constantly using them around the map, whether it's stopping a wave being pushed in on a tier 1 tower, whether before that he assisted in a skirmish in the top side of the map with the ultimate, somehow still managed to stay alive against a team that was known for, you know, putting so much pressure jungle top laners against the enemy top laner. Impressive.
Yeah, especially that makes that move on Fiora, I think 2 weeks ago, where that game ended up being so close. It's such an anomaly because that isn't Ottawamne, and I think he shows that every game.
Like, you play so many games and like heat of the moment, he's the guy making the call. He went on Twitter after as well and said he shouldn't have TP'd and like it was a bad call, but that happens and you learn from it.
You learn from it indeed. However, carrying harder than anyone else in the OP list in our opinion, G2
Mithy.
Perks.
Oh,
no, it is Perks. 18 kills, 85% kill participation this week, and a giant pile of fantasy points and a new mid laner in the LCS.
Yeah, and he's also ranked 1 in the 1v1 segment on PTL. He's also the only person that participated on it. But he ended the segment with the quote, "Nobody can 1v1 me, bro." So
Talking about 1v1s, how many 1v1 kills has he had already, so far?
yeah.
Do we have a stat about
We're
it?
gonna check
Oh,
that
we're
one
gonna
for
check
next
that
week for
right
sure.
now.
Maybe even now. I mean,
Mental
Thank you for helping us.
Perks is also the first guy now to play 4K mid in Europe, finally. And like he had 2 fantastic games. He's such a mechanically gifted player. He just adds, you know, to the list of EU mid laners doing extremely well. And as long as G2 can play around him, he's gonna carry games.
I mean, you know, and look a tiny bit. I hope all this praise doesn't get to his head because he is a bit of
A little bit.
He's a
Oh
bit of
my
an ego.
gosh.
He's a bit of an ego player. Knowing him.
This Twitter.
So I hope he stays calm and collected and keeps making the right decisions. But he does have, yeah, the passion and the fire to really always look for the aggressive outplay. And I think that's, especially in a team that's new, I think it's better to look for the aggressive outplay, make the mistake and learn. Because it's harder to teach a passive player to play more aggressive. Had that with certain players in the past, and it's really hard. So it's easier to tone down like a super aggro player than it is to turn a more passive oriented player into an aggressive beast.
I'd rather lose a game where my team is trying to do a ton of aggressive moves and like trying to outplay the enemy team than just sit back for 40 minutes and try and wave clear and then realize you couldn't basically, you lost the game in like 10 minutes because you could do nothing. Your combo was too passive. So I think what G2 is doing is correct. I just want to see if they can keep doing it.
We will see, but for now, they are absolutely at the top of the tables here in EU, and the fight for the top will continue next week here, next Thursday in Berlin, as Elements take on Vitality, and later on, we'll see G2 up against Origin in our game of the week. Well, isn't that a coinky-dink? Because we have Mythy here up against the #1 team, G2. What will it come down to for you guys to be able to take him down?
Having more gold lead, I think. Just getting the
How
gold
will you
lead, know?
accrue that gold?
How do you look to get that goal?
Yeah.
Well,
By not buying pinks, maybe.
maybe
More
Sven
gold.
can carry us through next week too. But if it's not the case, then we will just have to get through the early game and try and just be the better team.
All right, we'll see what happens. In any case, our coverage begins at 6 p.m. Central European Time. That is 9 a.m. Pacific. Don't be late. Until then, the LCS action continues over in North America on Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Central European Time, noon Pacific, with Team Impulse versus Dignitas. And then it is their game of the week between Cloud9 and TSM. Call it, guys. Cloud9 or TSM? High starting.
High starting.
Yeah.
So technically C9 is undefeated with high, but I think TSM
No,
is
they're
going to get better.
undefeated with high on Sundays. Plot thinkings. This is Saturday. TSM takes.
TSM will take it.
No. You already made your choice.
No, I was about to say TSM would take it.
We have to vouch for our European team.
Well,
TSM.
yeah, okay.
TSM.
TSM.
3 times TSM here, we will see. But for us here in Europe, we have to go on cooldown. From all of us here covering the LCS in Berlin, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us, Mythy. And we'll see you
Gracias.
right back here next week. Adios.